This is your USMNT Abroad weekend update from March 11th to March 13th of 2022. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Marsch TV. And I'm going to stop saying channel favorite. You all know this by now. To the USMNT Abroad series, where every Monday we update you on how the Yanks did abroad over the weekend, and every Friday we update you on how the Yanks did abroad over the midweek. And yes, there is a midweek episode this week as well, because there will be Americans playing for the Champions League and Europa League and some domestic competition as well. Now, for this episode, I will be wearing the Orlando City outfit. I just thought it was appropriate because I did make fun of FC Cincinnati quite a bit. I even said I was using them for my propaganda for promotion relegation. But FC Cincinnati defeated Orlando City, and now my narrative and my propaganda is finished, just like my club. All right, with that said, everyone, don't forget to hit that like button if you haven't already, or dislike button if you got pissed off with any jokes that I made throughout the video. Thank you very much. Subscribe if you enjoy. Let's play the intro, and let's start the episode. Since there are no transfer rumors or transfer updates to give y'all, I'm going to go straight to the performance updates. And we'll start with Christian Pulisic from Chelsea. On Sunday, Pulisic started off on the bench and came at the 78th minute for Chelsea during their 1-0 win over Newcastle in the English Premier League. Now, Pulisic came into this game as a left wing-back, but he looked a lot more like a left winger, if I'm being completely honest. At the time that he came in, the game was 0-0, and Chelsea was desperately after a goal. So let's just say he didn't have many defensive responsibilities. Eventually, he moved on to the right wing-back position, and Chelsea went on to score their goal, the game-winning goal from Kai Havertz. And I know this is off topic, but what a beautiful goal from Kai Havertz. That first touch and that finish. But back to Pulisic, after Chelsea scored that beautiful goal, he did have more defensive responsibilities, and he most certainly looked for the last 5 minutes or so of the match as a true right wing-back, defending quite a bit, more than I'm comfortable with, if I'm being completely honest. Now, in regards to the Chelsea sanctions, we covered that on the Friday episode of USMNT Abroad, so you can go check that out, the last USMNT Abroad episode. I won't be covering it again because there is really no other updates. It remains unresolved. Chelsea hasn't been sold by Abramovich yet, and the sanctions remain in place. So I got nothing else to say about it. Now, normally we would talk about Weston Mckennie, but Weston McKennie's injured and done for the season, so there's nothing to say about him as of now. No updates. Next up is Gio Reyna from Borussia Dortmund and George Bello from Arminia Bielefeld, as they both face each other over the weekend. On Sunday, George Bello started for Arminia Bielefeld and went the full 90 minutes, while Gio Reyna started off on the bench for Dortmund and came in at the 62nd minute. As for the game, Dortmund pulled a 1-0 win, and the one goal that Dortmund scored was a lot on Bello. He has a lot of blame on that goal for sure. We do know that Bello defensively can struggle. We saw that during his time at the Atlanta United. Now, at Dortmund's goal, he was completely out of position after a set piece. No sense of urgency to get back to his left-back position. Also, there was a poor attempt from his end to intercept the pass, and then it was just too late to recover, and at this level, you get punished for mistakes like this. But besides that, George Bello did have a solid game, even defensively. So yes, I did point out this specific mistake because it led to Borussia Dortmund's goal. But besides that, he was pretty solid throughout the match and had a good performance. As for Gio Reyna, he looked fine. He played mostly at the left wing and showed to be pretty sharp and capable of playing at least 30 minutes. He did almost score a goal at the 81st minute, but he missed the target. Maybe he should have done better at that play. Reyna was also taking corners for Borussia Dortmund. And look, if Gio Reyna can play for 15 to 30 minutes, he has to be in the USMNT roster that comes out this week. He can do much more damage to any opponent in 30 minutes than Sebastian Soto, Paul Riola, or Roldan can do in a full 90. Now, one player that I have to mention from Borussia Dortmund as well is Leonard Maloney, the 22-year-old center back that came in at the 85th minute when Dortmund was just trying to hold on to the lead. So yes, he got minutes, obviously benefiting from many injuries, but that's his second game or second cap for Borussia Dortmund this season in Bundesliga. Next up is Sergio Dest from Barcelona. On Sunday, Dest stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes for Barcelona during their 4-0 win over Osasuna in La Liga. Now, Barcelona plays a very tough match on Friday versus Galatasaray away in the Europa League second leg. The first match was 0-0 at Camp Nou in Spain. Playing Galatasaray away ain't easy. At times, it can even be somewhat like CONCACAF. This is most certainly a game you should keep an eye on, as Sergio Dest is expected to start on Thursday. Next up is Tyler Adams from RB Leipzig and Julian Green and Tim Tillman from Firth, as Leipzig destroyed Firth over the weekend. On Sunday, Tyler Adams started off on the bench for Leipzig and came in at the 78th minute during their 6-1 win over Fürth. When Tyler came in, the game was already 6-1. As for Fürth, Julian Green started for them and was subbed off at halftime by another American, Tim Tillman. The game was also already 4-1 at halftime, and I can strongly say after watching a few games from Fürth this season, this Fürth team is as bad as the Schalke team we saw last season. Okay, we talked about some of the main players. Now let's go by position. We'll start with the goalkeeper. So I'll start with Zach Steffen from Manchester City. The update on Steffen is that he's back in training, but we don't know when he will be match fit to actually play a game. So I actually don't expect Zach Steffen to be in the USMNT roster that's set to be released this week. Now let's talk about a goalkeeper that I do expect to be in the USMNT roster this week, and that's Ethan Horvath from Nottingham Forest. On Saturday, Horvath started and went the full 90 minutes for Nottingham Forest during their 4-0 win over Reading. Another clean sheet, that must be said. Now, something else that must be said is that it looks like Ethan Horvath is now the #1 option for Nottingham Forest. Last Monday, he had already started over Samba during the FA Cup match. Right there, to me, was already a clear indication that he had locked in the starting job. But there were people that rightfully so were doubting that he actually did because that was a cup match. But then he started again over Samba in the English Championship match this weekend. It's safe to say that he is the starting goalkeeper for Nottingham Forest, as I previously mentioned. And it's a perfect timing as Turner is injured and Zach Steffen is not fully fit yet for at least a month. Horvath got 3 starts after Samba got a 3-match suspension from a straight red card ban. He took full advantage of the opportunity, and now he's the starter of Nottingham Forest. Oh, there's actually one more W that Ethan Horvath got over the midweek, or it was announced over the weekend, but it was during the midweek match. Ethan Horvath also made the team of the week for the FA Cup. So congratulations to Ethan. It's great to have him in form right before the L3 game. I know L3 fans are probably nervous. The last match didn't go so well for them when Ethan Horvath came in. Now let's go to the center backs, and let's start with John Brooks from Wolfsburg and Kevin Paredes because he also plays for Wolfsburg. On Saturday, John Brooks started and went the full 90 minutes for Wolfsburg during their 3-2 loss to Freiburg. And Freiburg has been pretty damn good in Bundesliga this season. Now, John Brooks played as a left center back in a back 3 for the most part. Goals #1 and #3 for Freiburg were not on John Brooks. Now, the second goal, he was not to blame, but he was involved. It was a poor header to clear across from his teammate. Then sure, maybe Brooks could have reacted quicker and maybe he could have blocked the shot. Let's just say he could have done better. Now, as for the match, John Brooks had 1 clearance, 1 interception, 1 tackle, won 1 out of 3 ground duels, won 3 out of 5 aerial duels, had 79 touches, and a 79.4 passing accuracy. Now, Kevin Paredes did not make the bench once again, and he will likely be getting little to no minutes this season with only 8 games left in Bundesliga, which raises a question. Is it better to jump early or stay in MLS 1 or 2 more seasons and get a lot of professional minutes? Because he did make a big jump to Bundesliga. I am all for players taking up a challenge in a tougher league, but I also like to use Brenden Aaronson's example of taking it slow, staying enough time in MLS, and moving to a lesser league than Bundesliga. Slow and steady wins the race. Also, you can even use Erling Haaland as an example, someone that slowly took the steps, and it's definitely working out throughout his career so far. On Saturday, Richards was still not back with the team despite being back to full training for the past 2 weeks. Now, Justin Che stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes for Hoffenheim during their 1-1 draw with Bayern Munich. Next up is Eric Palmer-Brown from Troyes. I definitely got it wrong. On Saturday, Palmer-Brown started and went the full 90 minutes for Troyes during their 1-0 win over Nantes. And hey, it's a clean sheet. I'll take it. Plus, they seem in a pretty comfortable situation right now towards escaping relegation. Next up is Matt Miazga from Deportivo Alaves, and he stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes for Deportivo Alaves over the weekend. Next player on the list is Mark McKenzie from Genk. On Sunday, McKenzie was not available for Genk due to an injury. How long is he out for has not been mentioned, so we don't know his status for the USMNT camp coming up. Regardless, he should not be in the roster anyway. Next on the list is Cameron Carter-Vickers from Celtic. Celtic did not play over the weekend. They do have a game this Monday versus Dundee United for the quarterfinals of the Scottish Cup. So if you have any information on the game and you're watching this episode, feel free to comment it down below, as someone might read it, and I will update everyone on his performance this Friday on the USMNT Abroad midweek. Also, Dundee United is the team that Ian Harkes plays for. The last center back I want to talk about is Nico Cajeda from Holstein Kiel, the Mexican-American center back that plays in Bundesliga 2. On Friday, Nico started for the first time in Bundesliga 2 for Holstein Kiel and was subbed off at halftime during their 3-2 loss to Hansa. His minutes have been slowly increasing in Germany, which is very encouraging for a 19-year-old center back. Now, before we move forward in the video, a quick word from our sponsor. Tired of having big tech collecting all your data and spy on you? Well, our sponsor might have the solution to that. NordVPN is the world's best VPN service, offering fast connectivity, most servers, and next-generation encryption to make sure that everything you do online stays secure. Plus, you can use NordVPN on all your computer and devices no matter the operating system. With NordVPN's unlimited bandwidth, you never have to worry about a slow connection either. And plans start at under $4 per month. So grab your exclusive NordVPN deal right now by going to nordvpn.com/Bleav. That is Bleav as in BLEAV. Use the code for 70% off on your NordVPN plan, plus an additional free month. It's also risk-free with NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee. So again, thank you NordVPN for sponsoring the channel. All right, you heard it from our sponsor. Now let's go to the fullbacks, and we'll start with Anthony Robinson and Tim Ream from Fulham. On Saturday, Tim Ream and Anthony Robinson started and went the full 90 minutes for Fulham during their 1-1 away draw with Barnsley in the English Championship. Tim Ream and Robinson got a yellow card during this match. Next up is Reggie Cannon from Boavista, which I can keep him in the fullback section because he finally played as a fullback. On Saturday, Reggie Cannon started and went the full 90 minutes for Boavista during their 0-0 draw with B-Sad. He finally played as a right back / right wing back and not a center back as he's been playing for the past several weeks. Now Sam Vines from Antwerp in Belgium. On Sunday, Vines started and was subbed off at halftime for Antwerp during their 2-1 loss to Anderlecht. Now Vines had a yellow card and was subbed off not due to an injury. It's never good when you're subbed off that early and it's not due to an injury, even though having an injury is also not good. So I guess that's a positive, somewhat. Next up is Brian Reynolds from Kortrijk. On Saturday, Brian Reynolds started and played 45 minutes for Kortrijk during their 2-0 loss to Cercle Brugge. He was also subbed off at halftime, just like Sam Vines, and there were also no reports of an injury, so it's likely just tactical. So just to make it clear, the fact that they weren't subbed off early due to an injury, it's positive. You never want your players injured, but the fact that they were subbed off this early at halftime in losses, it's not a good look from a performance standpoint. Next on the list of the fullbacks is Joe Scally from Borussia Mönchengladbach, aka Borussia, not the Dortmund one. On Saturday, Joe Scally started and went the full 90 minutes for Gladbach during their 2-0 win over Hertha Berlin in Bundesliga. Now, Scally played mostly as a right wingback for this match, and in the second half, when Netzig got injured, Leiner came in to play as a right wingback, and Joe Scally went to the left wingback position. In possession, Scally would be very high up the field as a wingback, and in the defensive shape, he would drop a lot and pretty much look like a fullback. He looked pretty good in this game, confident on the ball, even in tight spaces, solid on defense, and one thing that impressed me is what I just said. He was solid in tight spaces, which normally he is not. He even got a nice shot on target and didn't score. Unfortunately, the goalkeeper defended it. Yes, it was not a perfect game. Far from that. He's not perfect, but a very solid performance by Joe Scally. In terms of stats, for this one, Scally had 56 touches, 92% pass accuracy, had 1 shot on target, 1 shot off target, won 5 out of 8 ground duels, won 3 out of 4 aerial duels, and also had 3 clearances. The last fullback I want to talk about is Jonathan Gomez from Real Sociedad B. On Sunday, Jonathan Gomez started and went the full 90 minutes for Real Sociedad B during their 0-0 draw with Burgos in La Liga 2. Another clean sheet. If I'm not mistaken, this is already his 3rd clean sheet for Real Sociedad B in roughly 4 to 5 games. Now we're moving on to the midfielders, and if you haven't already, I know this might kill my momentum in the video, but hit that like button if you have. If you made it this far, you should have hit it already. So the first midfielder is Yunus Musah, and he did not play for Valencia over the weekend because he was suspended due to yellow card accumulation. So he wasn't available. Essentially, he'll be available in the next match. Next player up is Johnny Cardoso, the Brazilian-American from Internacional. On Saturday, Johnny started and played 58 minutes for Internacional during their 1-1 draw with Guarani in the Rio Grande do Sul state tournament in Brazil. Next up are the Venezia boys, Tanner Tessman and Gianluca Busio. So Venezia did not play over the weekend. Venezia plays this Monday, so that will be on the Friday USMNT Abroad recap, the midweek recap essentially. If you are watching this and you have an update, let us know if Busio is starting or Tanner Tessman, as Gianluca Busio was injured last week, so Maybe he'll be back, maybe not. If he's not back, I'll be a little bit worried about him being in the roster or not. Yeah, so if you're watching this right now and the game's going on, comment down below if Busio or Testament are playing. Also, don't forget to check out our Gianluca Busio interview. We had an interview here in the channel / a hangout with Matteo Busio and Gianluca Busio, the two Busio brothers. Matteo Busio is currently a scout for Venezia. Now, James Sands from Rangers. On Sunday, James Sands started and went the full 90 minutes for Rangers during their 3-0 win over Dundee FC in the Scottish Cup quarterfinals. Hey, his minutes have not been good, but he got a full 90 minutes in a cup game, so I'll take it. Now, Brenden Aaronson from RB Salzburg. On Sunday, Brenden Aaronson started and played 83 minutes for RB Salzburg during their 1-0 win over Sturm Graz in the Austrian Bundesliga, or as Watke would say, he's our little Brenden. Next up is Luca de la Torre from Heracles in the Eredivisie, the Dutch league. On Sunday, Lucas started and played 90 minutes for Heracles during their 0-0 draw with Vitesse in the Eredivisie. He was subbed off at the 92nd minute, but I mean, he pretty much played the entire match. Now, staying in Netherlands, Cole Bassett, that plays for Feyenoord, stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes for Feyenoord once again. His minutes haven't been good this season. He just arrived. Maybe he's adapting. It hasn't really looked good. Actually, most MLS transfers that happened in January, to not say all of them, to say all of them, I'd have to read through them, but pretty much all of them haven't gone very well, right? Ricardo Pepi hasn't been going well. Daryl DK is injured. James Sands hasn't been playing much. I don't know. There's a couple more that we could talk about, but it just hasn't really looked good. The MLS transfers during the midseason. Unlike last year when Brenden Aaronson actually went to RB Salzburg, and that worked wonders. Now, Dwayne Holmes from Huddersfield. On Saturday, Dwayne Holmes stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes for Huddersfield during their 2-2 draw with West Brom. Now, Daryl DK was not available for West Brom yet. He should be fully fit right after the international break, so early April. Okay, we're reaching the end of the video. We're already at the forwards, but you haven't gotten rid of me yet. So let's start now with Timothy Weah from Lille, because I do have a lot to talk about during the forward section. On Friday, Weah started off on the bench and came in at the 76th minute for Lille during their 0-0 draw with Saint-Etienne. Now, Weah's minutes have gone down. Ever since the first leg of the Champions League of Lille versus Chelsea, where he stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes, Lille has played 3 Ligue 1 games since, to which he has played a total of 28 minutes out of 270 available. Now, there's good and bad to that. The bad is he probably won't be in the best of forms for the U.S. men's national team during camp, and that does hurt a player's development as well, along with confidence. The good is he'll definitely be healthy for the U.S. men's national team and very well rested. So, you know, you can look at the glass half full or the glass half empty. Stay in France. Now we're going to go to Conrad de la Fuente from Olympique Marseille. On Sunday, Conrad stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes for Olympique Marseille at their 4-1 win over Brest. Yes, his minutes have tanked, and he is very talented, but he does need to get his professionalism sorted out, as that clearly has pissed off Sampaoli, and Sampaoli is reluctant to play Conrad ever since. It's unclear what was the professionalism issues in regards to Conrad, if it was like laziness in training or anything he did outside of the field, but clearly Sampaoli is not happy, and we'll see what happens from here. If he doesn't get that sorted out, he'll never live up to any of the expectations we had for Conrad de la Fuente. Okay, now Ricardo Pepi from Augsburg, and their game this weekend was canceled against Mainz. Mainz had a COVID outbreak, so they requested, the request was approved, and the game has been postponed, so Augsburg didn't play over the weekend. Now, there's one thing I want to say. I have no inside information. This is just me speculating and perhaps giving you a warning. Not really a warning, just a heads up, essentially. There's a very good chance that we might not see Ricardo Pepi in this U.S. men's national team camp. Just a heads up. Don't be surprised if he doesn't make the roster. I personally would have bring him. I would have brought him. Actually, or bring him. Now it's kind of confusing because the roster is not out yet. I would bring Ricardo Pepi, as I did say in the video that I made about my roster. But don't be surprised if Greg doesn't bring Pepi. It could very much happen. Now Matthew Hoppe from Mallorca. Now, Mallorca, like Venezia, also plays this Monday. They will face Real Madrid, and we will have the update for that on Friday's episode. Also, as I said before, if you have any updates on this game, feel free to comment down below if you're watching it. The last time Mallorca played Real Madrid, Matthew Hoppe did start for them earlier this season. Now, Nicolas Gioacchini from Montpellier in Ligue 1. On Saturday, Nico Gioacchini stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes for Montpellier during their 0-0 draw with Nice. Now, Gioacchini only played 9 minutes total in the past 4 games. Even the entire season, his minutes have been super low. He has played a total of 309 minutes at Ligue 1, which is roughly a little bit over 3 games. It's around 3.5 games out of 28 possible matches, and he didn't really have any injuries this season. However, he does have 3 assists, which means he essentially has 1 assist per 90 minute. Not bad, but the minutes have been terrible, awful, and they likely won't go up this season. We just gotta hope that next season he maybe has a breakout or just gets a heavy load of minutes in the French First Division. Next up is Josh Sargent from Norwich and Jesse Marsch, the manager or coach of Leeds United. On Sunday, Josh Sargent started and played 62 minutes for Norwich during their 2-1 loss to Leeds United. Now, this was a very exciting game. I loved watching it. Very intense, high pace, great game. Lots of goal-scoring opportunities and 3 goals. Now, Josh Sargent played as a right winger. The work rate was there. He did what he does. On the ball, did not offer much for this one. Also, Norwich is just pretty bad, and they're pretty much relegated at this point. Now, as for Leeds United and Jesse Marsch, this was a massive and exciting win, with Norwich equalizing at the 91st minute just so Leeds could get a win at the 94th. Also, if Leeds United could finish, it would have likely been 3-4-0, 3 or 4-0, something like that in the first half. Leeds United are now in a much more comfortable situation to escape relegation. Now, one thing I want to talk about in this game, for anyone that watches MLS and the English Premier League, is about noticing the defensive awareness and intensity differences between MLS and the English Premier League. And look, this has nothing to do with technique, level of play, having world-class players. I'm talking about intensity and awareness. This is just the player being aware and playing with high pace and high intensity on the defensive end. I'm talking about center backs, midfielders, fullbacks. Because I can say the exact same thing when I compare the Brazilian League to MLS, and the Brazilian League is closer to MLS than it is to the Premier League. So I'm not talking about technique and ability. It seems like defenses in MLS at times just don't feel like defending. Lack of sense of urgency and intensity. I don't know. Watching a lot of MLS, Premier League, and Brasileirão, it's something I have noticed. And let me know what you think and why you think this happens. Again, technique and level of play have nothing to do with intensity. MLS is not an amateur league. The intensity should always be there at peak professional level, but at times it just doesn't seem like it's there. And understand one thing, if you really care about MLS, you won't see this as a bash at MLS. You will see this as constructive criticism. If you want your league to improve, you have to be aware of the issues surrounding it and want it to improve. And MLS's defense is just something that if you watch it over the week in MLS and Premier League, and even some smaller leagues like the Brazilian League, which is no elite league, you see the difference of defensive intensity and awareness. All right, let me know your thoughts on that down below. Again, call me an MLS hater if you want. That's not the point. Now let's talk about Chris Mueller from Hibernian in Scotland. On Sunday, Chris Mueller started off on the bench and came in at the 9th minute due to an injury. So he came in very early into the game. However, he was also subbed off at the 76th minute. So yeah, he was subbed in and subbed out in the same game. Hibernian did defeat Motherwell 2-1 and advanced to the Scottish Cup semi-finals. Now let's talk about Pefok from BSC Young Boys in Switzerland. On Sunday, Pefok started and went the full 90 minutes for BSC Young Boys during their 2-2 draw with Lausanne. Now, Pefok had a goal disallowed early in the match, but he went on to score early in the second half, BSC Young Boys' first goal in this 2-2 draw. He continues to score a lot in Switzerland, which led to many people asking me, how do I rate the Swiss League? And look, I don't watch the Swiss League, so any assessment I try to make will be very ignorant and not very good. But I'll try to do this in this video based on some games they had this season and past performances of Swiss teams. So I'll try right now to give my opinion on where the Swiss League ranks. How do I rate it? Is it better than MLS? Is it worse than MLS? Let's talk about that briefly. So looking into this season, in the Champions League, Young Boys gave Manchester United a hard time and Atlanta, so they gave them problems. These are 2 top teams. Now, Villarreal struggled less with them. They also went through in the group, but regardless, they showed they can cause trouble to big teams. Basel, another strong team in Switzerland, in the past has had many balanced games in the continental level, and Zurich, that currently leads the league, also has as well at times. So they're perfectly capable of causing troubles to top clubs. At least the top 3 clubs in Switzerland are. The rest of the league is likely worse than MLS, in my ignorant opinion. So I would probably say the Swiss League is worse than MLS overall, but the top 3 teams would likely be MLS Cup contenders. But that's just my opinion. It's tough to compare 2 leagues when you rarely watch one. Give me your opinion. In my ignorant opinion, from what I was saying, the Swiss League is likely worse than MLS, but not by a lot. The top 3 teams will likely be contenders, and that's just the summary. Maybe the favorites to even win MLS, the top 3, which is Zurich, Basel, and Young Boys. Yeah, so I can't say more. I don't watch the league or follow it enough. It might be the same level as MLS. I think it's probably a little bit below besides those top 3 teams. If you do watch the Swiss League, comment down below. Last but not least, Folarin Balogun from Middlesbrough. On Saturday, Balogun started and went the full 90 minutes for Middlesbrough during their 0-0 draw with Millwall in the English Championship. Alright everyone, I want to thank you all very much for watching. Thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that like button before you go if you made it this far in the video. Also, don't forget this week we will have the live stream of the roster. Yes, the USMNT roster will be out this week. So it's essentially the week where Greg Berhalter sets hell loose. It's chaos week, right? But we all love it. And this is probably the most important roster Greg Berhalter has ever had to call up. And probably won't be the last one because the World Cup one, if we qualify, which hopefully we will be the most important one. I want to thank you all very much for watching and have a great day.